Thank you very much, Laszlo. So we are a little bit running behind time, but I think we have time for a few questions. So we received a number of questions from US attendees. So the first question is for Rémi Carrié, and it's about the issue of ductwork airtightness. So the question is it true that no existing regulation in Europe requires a ductwork airtightness test? Rémi, can you?
Well, yes. Well, I guess maybe I was a little bit confusing during my presentation because what I said is that the directive does not require ductwork airtightness test, but there may be regulations, national regulations, requiring ductwork airtightness test. For instance, in Portugal, that's the case, and that's what I mentioned.
Okay, thank you. I think also in Sweden is already for more than 20 years that there is a mandatory testing scheme for airtightness with, I think, quite spectacular results. So the second question is for Michal. It's about, the question is, what are the reasons for the airtightness requirement withdrawal from the Polish regulations for 2014? Michal, can you answer that?
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's me, Michal. I can at least try to answer because we don't actually know the reasons of this. We call it step backwards. The person who asked the question called it withdrawal. Maybe some kind of unawareness, maybe wrong people were advising to our government. We don't know actually the reason of the situation.
Okay, thank you. Then there is a question, I think probably that Valerie can reply on, or me. Shouldn't it be useful that the future EPBD recast defines a unified indicator for the building airtightness, whereby leaving member states to decide about the limit value?
Well, I don't know, Rémi, if you want to answer it, but I guess it's quite difficult to have a unified indicator on airtightness because it's supposed to change the regulation in every country, and well, every country has its opinion on what the airtightness indicator should be. So I'm not sure they are ready to change the regulation and to have a unified indicator.
Well, I think yes. Well, yes, that's one problem, and also I think it could be useful to have a unified value. However, that means that you need to define, I mean, the reference value that you're using to derive the indicator. Well, the indicator is based on the floor area, or on the volume, or on the envelope area, and all of these are different between the member states. So it could be useful, but that entails another series of questions which need to be answered.
Yeah. Okay, then a question, let's say, related to the, I think the expression build tight, ventilate right. And so the question is there a tendency that next to increasing air tightness levels, the minimum ventilation rates will increase too in the near future? Rémi, perhaps it's good for you to answer that.
I'm sorry. The
yes,
question.
So the question is so that we see on the one hand clearly overall a tendency to construct more and more airtight, whether or not with explicit requirements, but the tendency to more airtight, I think, is very clear. So the question is, will there also then be, let's say, a tendency to increase the minimum ventilation rate in the near future?
Well, I don't think there is a reason why the minimum ventilation rate should be increased. I mean, it depends on what we've seen from the study that I've shown at the beginning is that if you have proper ventilation rates and good air tightness, then you have proper indoor air quality. I'm not sure that there's you need to have a correspondence between the two. That if you increase the air tightness, you of course need to increase the ventilation airflow rates. But of course, that may depend on the local context, on whether or not it has been accounted for in deriving the numbers for the minimum airflow rates that were set in the regulation at national level. So I'm not convinced that it needs to be increased. At least that in France, where I know the context a bit better, I don't think it needs to be increased because of increased airtightness.
Yeah, my impression is that if you strictly speak in, let's say, requirements and standards and or legislation, that indeed there is no need typically for increasing these rates because of the tendency towards more airtight buildings. On the other hand, there are still, I think, a lot of countries where many buildings have no ventilation system or not well, let's say, well-running ventilation system. It is clear, I think, the more airtight you build, the more important it becomes that you, let's say, have a correct working ventilation system. But it's not to expect that the requirements of the legislation are increasing in terms of airflow rates because of this tendency to better airtight buildings.
Yes, I agree, yes.
Okay, I think that were the most, I would say, important questions, and I would also like to keep the time, let's say, in mind. So I think here that it's probably the moment to close this, as I said in the beginning, first webinar in the context of Built Up. So I hope it was interesting for all of you, and as I said in the beginning, the recorders will become available through Built Up, and also you will find them on the Tightfence website. We have scheduled a next webinar towards the end of August, and that will be on the focus on the renovation of buildings, but you will all receive, let's say, an email to invite you to this webinar. Thank you all, and I hope that we will see, or let's say meet virtually in the coming months in one of the future Built Up webinars. Thank you all, and bye-bye.